My name's Luke. I own Persona Kitchens, and that's Cardiff, South Wales. Well, within about a 20, 30 mile radius, really. I've been a carpenter since I was 16, 17, so 20 odd years. And yeah, I went off on my own when I was about 21 and started my own business then. And it kind of just grew into things like bigger projects, kitchens, bathrooms, but then extensions, loft conversions, full refurbs. But yeah, I think there's, in my mind, well, we'll get into that later, but I thought I was doing well, but I wasn't doing well. I was no better off really than somebody with a 9 to 5 job, and really, especially with the added stress. So I just thought it's time for something new.
So why did you focus primarily on kitchens and bathrooms in the end? How have you ended up focusing?
Because I'm kitchen fitter joiner. I've got a small workshop where I do bespoke wardrobes, cupboards, spray them, all this sort of thing anyway. But yeah, so we did a few little bespoke kitchens and utilities, nothing too big. The workshop isn't huge anyway, but there's a lot of work involved in building, spraying, all that malarkey really. So
It's hard to do stuff like that while you're running a business at the same time.
it's so hard, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned then it wasn't that much different. So doing all these jobs and spreading yourself really thin, as you're saying, is no different to a 9 to 5. So what were the frustrations then that made you want more?
More money, really. There's no point lying about it, is it? It's more money. I think I was always busy, always constantly booked up, word of mouth. But there's, until now, I don't think, although I still running a business, it's still a company, it's still a business. I've always got, it's never been labor only as such as I'm subbing into another company. I've always had to deal with the customers, price the customers, sell myself. So I've gotten pretty good at that, but there was never any profit in a job. So as far as the phrase labor only comes into it, it still was labor only. I'm pretty much pricing jobs based on a wage. There's no margin there. It's wage and materials, and then there you go, Missy. That's your quote. So there's nothing there. And as bills rose, how mortgage, childcare.
So let's just jump into the psychology for a minute on what you've just said there. Why do tradespeople not? And don't get me wrong, I was exactly the same. I'm not saying this from I did exactly the same thing. I did it for years as well. And why do we do it? Why do we do it where we just sort of, who are we serving? Because we never really look at it and go, oh, I've made profit. We sort of we're programmed to survive, aren't we? Like, it's just keep yourself treading water. But why do we do this? Do you think, what's your take on it?
I had a conversation at a funeral I went to last week. There was, I know them because they're builders I've worked with. And I had that same conversation with somebody. And he's actually the guy I did my apprenticeship with. So, he's coming up to 60 now. And I've got to the point now, only recently, mind, where a most recent job where they were going to go with me. And they didn't in the end. They went with, after we'd gone back and forth with the designs, we'd done bent over backwards and changing colours, all this thing. In the end, they went with Magnet purely on the finance options, because I don't offer finance at the minute. And it wasn't to do with money, because we were cheaper. And they wanted me. It was to do with spreading the cost because it was a larger job.
Yeah.
So they wanted to put their money somewhere else and be able to just spread the cost. So even though I was £8,000 cheaper, I know. And that was because of the quartz, to be fair, because what Magnet were offering on quartz was ridiculous. So, but then they let me down last minute, but asked me if I would still install for them. So I did, and I gave them, well, I didn't, but I gave them a huge cost, which they agreed to and said, yeah, book me in for December. That'd be great if you could do that. Then a couple of days later, they messaged me, said, oh, Magnet have been in touch and they've got a fitter who can do it quite a bit cheaper than you. Can you match them or beat them? And I just said no, because I didn't want to do it anyway, to be fair. So I'm coming back to talking to this guy at the funeral about that. I'm in the position now where I can just say, no, I don't want to do your job because there's money in the bank, there's work booked in, there's work coming in. Whereas I think where he still is in his 60s or coming up to 60, and where I was is you're pricing work out of desperation because my bills are so high that the idea of not having anything next month, or even I'm always thinking my partner, my missus says, "Why are you stressing all the time about money?" Because I'm not thinking about the 30th this month. I'm thinking about the 30th of November. I'm thinking about money for bills. Well, I was. I'm not so much now. And that's what it is. I think we don't put profit or margins on our jobs initially at the beginning because we don't want to lose them to
Yeah, you're just too
show
scared to
growth.
lose
Or
them.
somebody who's not VAT registered, some builder who's fiddling the books, he's staying under the threshold somehow, and
Mm.
he's going in 20% cheaper than you are. So you're just going in as cheap as you can.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because I think that's the point. I think if you're trying to compete with people at the bottom, you will remain at the bottom. Whereas if you start thinking about it, going, well, actually, and I think that's really interesting that because I think that's probably where going back and in hindsight for myself was, once I realised actually if I come across like a one man band, I'm going to end up paying the fucking same price as I want. I'm going to be where they are. So from a consumer's perspective, if I can make myself look more like, a bigger company, then I can compete at that level.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, and I think that's the mindset shift in it that people, battle to stay under the VAT threshold, which is ridiculous, and try and think that they need to win the work because they're shit scared of not paying the bills.
That's what it comes down to be
That is
fair.
basically it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically it. And I think I've done it a couple of times where you price work out of desperation. You think, right, no, I need that, I need this because it's been a quiet week as far as leads or any phone calls. But especially when you're booked up, say a month or two in advance, within that month or two, something better comes along. A better job comes in, and you can't do it because
Mm.
you've already booked in Mr. Tight Ass, who wants everything for nothing. They want their £1,000 tap fitted, but they won't pay 50 quid for you to fit it. And that's what we're up against: is people want everything for
So
nothing.
how do you break? So how do you go from this? So let's put a scenario in play where we're scared of losing work, we're underpricing because we need to pay bills this month, and we've got that stress. But we've now realised that shit, I need to compete up there if I want to make that money, and I need to. So how do people bridge that gap? What's the first step? Do you think? What do you remember being the first step for you? What was the first change that you had to make to get to where you're at now?
I had to be a bit strict with money as well, if I'm honest, because for me, the first thing, for me and my partner, she's been great as well. We've had to get that buffer in the bank because otherwise you are just literally fighting the end of the month. So, like I said, I was always working for that end of the bills at the end of the month, the mortgage. And the problem is, when in our job, if our mortgage and that comes out on the 30th or the 28th of the month, and we're not due to finish a job and get paid, I'm using VAT money to pay the mortgage. I'm using money I should ideally, which I do now. I've got a pot in my back, putting away for my tax, at the end of the year, but I'm not putting that aside because I'm using that, and you need that buffer. I think you need to. It's hard because you want to just your clientele change anyway. I mean, but that's mainly I think because you get to a point where you can just say, "Oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing
Yeah, but
this."
going earlier than that, how do you go from, what I'm trying to pick at here is like if you're getting up now, because a lot of people watching this will be getting up, not earning a lot of money, thinking shit, I can see this, but what's the first thing that I do? How do I deal with that first customer where I need to tell them to fuck off? Do you know what I mean? I mean, my take on this first and foremost um is to price properly.
Yeah,
That's the first thing, isn't it? If you don't price properly to start with, you're doomed. And I think that, but then you've got to have the balls to sort of price something higher than you normally would and hope that you win it. But I think that if you, again, through the academy and stuff like that, you learn that if you get these bits of value added in, doing your looms, doing your HIP protection, you're doing all the stuff that makes the customer feel safe, they're much more likely to say yes. But I think when people are in the van and they've not got any of that, that's the barrier in it. They haven't got that. They can't command that price because they haven't got the things around them that make them look worthy of it. So
yeah. It's about trust, isn't it?
yeah, 100%.
You need to win their trust at the beginning. I mean, yeah. I think I think people coming into the academy at the beginning, different people will find certain things easier. It's easier and harder for certain people. I find talking to the customer, going to a customer's house, knocking on their door, presenting myself. I find that quite easy because I've done it for 15, 17 years plus. You know, a bit of banter, but I know, you know, take your shoes off. I just know just the little things. I've won so many jobs by taking my shoes off, and they tell me that.
And being on time.
Yeah, but then, so some people coming in who are not in the trade, not used to that, might find that difficult. But then what I find difficult, I'm getting over it now, whereas new people coming in will follow your academy to the T because it's all new to them. And what I find difficult then from being in it for 15, 17 years is changing all the other little bits, like implementing things like the loom then, and even the way you price things. You price things a certain way for 15 years. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, but this is, but then, so I've completely, well, I've gone back to the academy and done it completely changed it now.
Yeah,
But
because you've done it in phases, haven't you? But just to finish on that previous point, what we're saying then, if someone's in the van, because I want to make this really clear for people that are sort of right at the beginning or just started the academy or not started the academy, and they know they need to charge more money and they need this better life, the first thing they need to do is build those trust elements around them in it. So the good website, learn a bit of the sales process, or at least have a sales process, have some sort of insurance-backed warranty, have some sort of communication with the customer, you know, like what we teach with the CRM system and all the rest of it, because all that builds trust, and then price properly. So if you can build the trust around you, i.e., don't just have a plain van, get some branded clothing, sign write your van, make it look proper. So when you turn up to a survey, it looks the dog's bollocks. You know, these are all the things that to the customer's perception makes you look bigger and better and gives more trust. And then when you put a higher price in, they're much more likely to say yes. I think in a nutshell, that's where people need to start in it.
yeah, you need to look professional. You need to look the part. I mean, nobody's going to give you 20 grand if you turn up in, you know, no disrespect to a plain van. My van was plain, but a plain van, dirty clothes. Like, I know you're fit in their kitchen. I'm sure they understand that. Unless you're not fitting, but yeah, just making the effort, turning up with your dirty work clothes full of silicone, you know, white van, which I used to do. To be fair, I'd go straight after work and go and price a job. But now, if I got a survey at 2, I'll try and finish around half 12, 1, go home, shower, change in the van. Down there, I've got the brochure, I've got the info pack, I've got a leaflet, even goes in their business card. It's all in the brochure.
Yeah, so you find that obviously there's the perfect example of what I've just said then. You were in the van, covered in shit, not pricing properly, not earning properly. You switch it up, you do all the trust stuff, you do the sales process properly, you turn up looking the part, and now things are completely different. So really that in a nutshell is the answer to anyone that's watching in it that can sit there and go, well, how do I get from where I am to there? And there's the
And try
answer.
not to overthink the pricing, which I did a lot at the beginning. Don't get me wrong, I do cut my cloth to suit.
Yeah, you have to
If I turn
sometimes.
up to somebody's house and not belittling somebody, but if I see somebody who's really, you can tell they want a new kitchen, they're going to buy, they need a new kitchen, they've saved for this kitchen. I'll drop my margin, especially now the portals being updated. Now I can just, all my margins are in there. I mean, pretty much my standard margin is 30% on kitchens. It's like 20% on worktops, 10% on taps and things like that, and it just stays the same. Instead of overthinking it and going, no, actually, I could do that cheap and drop in, and it's going up and down and up and down before I actually press send. It's now it is what it is.
Yeah. And then that's a big thing in it. But that's confidence in it, and that comes from making a few sales. But I think when people haven't made a sale yet, and this is an alien world to them, it's difficult for them sometimes to press send and hold the nerve and think, oh fucking hell. But
Yeah.
you just have to do it, don't you? You just have to. You need to get out your own head, because it's not helpful, is it?
And I also wanted, in my own head, at the beginning, you also want to win every job.
Yeah.
You think you want 100% conversion rate. You want to win every job, and if you lose, when you think, oh, my conversion rate's going to go down,
Yeah. Well, you have to get
you
used to
can't win like that.
rejection. You have to be comfortable with rejection, and you have to demand rejection as well, because this is the thing where if people have said to me, I'm winning every job, I'm like, well, put your prices up then, because guarantee every customer you meet isn't right for you and you're not right for them. You're never going to get it 100%. Not every lead is a great lead, so you need to have some sort of a barrier to the people that you do business with, because otherwise you'll end up back where you were, working for every fucker and not earning any money. You need
Yeah,
to have a certain level of earning where some people are going to say no, and that's that, and that's fine. But I feel like, again, when you've come from that world of being yes to everything. And this is the badge of honor, unfortunately, that we all wear as tradespeople early on. We go, yeah, I'm dead busy, me. And you've heard me say it loads of times. Oh, it's like being busy, but where's the profit? Busy and profit don't sit, they need to sit in the same sentence. It's all right being really busy. It's like if someone's come to me and went, I'm really busy and booked up for 3 months and I'm making loads of profit. I've got the life that I want. I would say, well, you don't need to join the academy then, do you? You don't need to be here.
I used to work pretty much 7 days a week, earn no profit, and they'd be pretty stressed. Now I'm actually, because I have every Friday off, so now I'm only working 4 days a week and earning more money in theory. There's more money in the bank, and I'm working 4 days a week because I take a Friday off to do all this.
And do you think that, like, somebody watching this who's maybe a consumer might say, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. People have different opinion of what you just said. However, do you think that your customers are getting a better service as a result of that?
Yeah, 100%. They're not getting less of a service. And yeah, I'm on top of things more. And obviously I'm trying to trial lads now, because another thing I come up against is customers wanting, you've got Paul Johnson, the kitchens which are in their own name. It's got to be quite difficult, because I get it all the time where customers want you there. They think you're selling and installing their kitchen, so they want you there. But yeah, you need to get out of that. I think you can't run a business and do all the
No, you
donkey.
can't be everywhere. You can't be everywhere. Customers have got to respect that, a business is a business. And it's no different when they go to Ren. Do they expect the CEO of Ren to turn up at the
No.
fucking house and watch the kitchen getting fitted? No. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't happen, does it? So I get that there's different expectations, but I think, that's where you have to be realistic. And sometimes if, in my opinion, if a consumer expects that and pushes on it, they're probably not the sort of person you want to work with anyway. You're probably better off avoiding that one. So what were your first impressions then so obviously you were in this world as the one we've just discussed, turning up surveys covered in shit, not pricing properly, struggling to the end of the month. And then you see the academy. What was the first impressions of?
So I saw the academy. I think it was Instagram first, and there's so, even now there's so many other like lead generation and them sort of sites promising you the world and everything. So at the time, I kind of thought maybe it was the same sort of thing. I remember seeing it. It did catch my eye more than the others, mind, but I kind of just ignored it, if I'm honest. I think it was about 2 months later, and the job went. It didn't go south, but I didn't really earn any money on it. I think it might even cost me money, to be fair. And I was looking for you. I remember thinking, oh, what was that thing? Because I also, prior to that, I fitted, as part of some extensions, I fitted quite a few kitchens for a guy who, he's been going like 20 odd years. He supplies his own kitchens. He's a small local kitchen company. And he was living his best life. He's always walking his dog. I thought, well, I can't walk my dog. I can. But he was living his best life, and his kitchens were really good quality. They were solid timber kitchens. They were actually nice to fit. And so then that came into at the time. Even when that happened, it was in my head. So when I saw you guys, I thought, oh yeah, it was quite interesting. But I let it go. When this job went south, I was trying to search for you. I couldn't remember what you called. It was KBB, KBS, KB, all this, until you finally come up. And then it was even before, because a lot of the stuff is free on the online. And I think before I even spoke to Lee and did my onboarding and signed up, I did everything. I downloaded bet proposals. I set up bet proposals. I pretty much done everything. I'd ordered sample doors to make sure that they were good quality and they got delivered. That you weren't just a scam. I'd ordered loads before and kind of did my homework. And yeah, no, it was. I thought it was great. I spoke to Lee then. I remember having a phone call with Lee on the phone. I was buzzing. I did get on top of everything. I think I just lived on my laptop for a good month or two. I did it. I was just doing everything.
Yeah, you went all in, didn't you? So were you skeptical at first?
Yeah, massively skeptical. Because I don't know, some dodgy guy comes online and he's saying you can earn 10 grand. Here's 10 grand. Sign up with us and you can have 10 grand a week.
10 grand a month.
A month, sorry.
Yeah, I wish it was.
No, it is. To be fair, it is quite hard to believe, isn't it? I think if somebody says to you, if you're just making bills and somebody says You can make 10 grand a month, just doing 2 kitchens. And I'd probably fit in at least 3 anyway, but for other people a month
Yeah.
at a time.
So now you're actually achieving that number,
And
or
now
very close to.
I'm achieving that number, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's up and down, it's not a fixed number, is it? I mean, 1 month, especially some of my jobs are quite big. So I might not do 2 kitchens in 1 month.
Yeah, but on an average, it'll
But
be
on an
there or
average, I
thereabouts, won't
mean,
it?
yeah, yeah, on an average, we just done 3 last month. And I think the profit was close to like 25, 27 grand. That's profit going on the cash flow sheet. That's profit. That's, everything in and out.
Yeah.
And that was good going.
That wasn't the case a couple of years ago, was it?
I used to usually leave an envelope and give the customer some money back at the end. Just literally, there was no profit at all. No
No, it's crazy, isn't it?
contingency. If something goes over a couple of days, you're paying the lads again because they're not on price. They're not on a fixed. They're on a day rate. So if you say that's yeah, okay, that's 14-day job, and it goes into 16 days, you could lose a grand there in paying
Yeah,
lads.
easy. Yeah, easy. So, what was the final nail in the coffin, and when did you jump in and go, right, this is enough now? I'm jumping in and doing it. What pushed you over the edge?
I sold a kitchen before I joined, so I was dealing with a customer in an area close to me in Bridgend. She was a property developer, but she was doing some bits on her own house. So I just mentioned, I hadn't even spoken to Lee at the time, I don't think, to be fair. And I just thought, I'll just try it anyway, because I know I'd ordered doors and I'd ordered things. So I know you could just order things and you can put designs in. So I may have spoken to Lee actually, but I hadn't signed up. I hadn't gone through that. So it was within the first week. And we sold a kitchen. So, and Lee was a great help there. I always remember back, because this was a year and a half ago now, and I'd messaged something and he rang me on a Sunday afternoon and we had a chat and I ended up selling a kitchen quite early on. So I thought, well, this is great. You're gonna a bit
So
of
it's a
money.
bit of a push over the line then to get you in selling your own kitchen, and then seeing that. Did you make some decent money on that first one?
I think I had about 1,200 quid on it. It was because I went in pretty low. It was £1,200 for
A bit of
really.
paperwork.
I was dealing with her anyway. I went to have a chat with her. I mean, a lot of my surveys, I don't do a design session. If I chat to the customer, I know exactly what they want. I know I've just done one now. I know they're having a roof lantern, what color floor they're going to have, what color walls, and really make that room look like the room they can imagine having, and just really go through all the details. More often than not, I set up a WhatsApp group with them. They can just say, "Oh, any chance we can just change this and this, and a few little changes," and then I can get the job over the line without a design session.
Yeah, well, you're sort of doing it. You are doing the design session, but you're just sort of doing it a
It's,
little bit differently, aren't you?
yeah, it's just kind of online, really, just
Yeah,
through
you're
WhatsApp,
just keeping it flowing.
back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So, so you sell your first kitchen. So, what's life like? Would you say? How do you think it's different being in the academy to trying to do all this on your own?
Again, I don't think you could do it on your own unless you were off the tools. Realistically, 100% off the tools. No, because from I'll go out, meet the customer, maybe spend an hour with them. It's not even an hour sometimes. Get the design. I'll come home, sketch it out on the software, send it in, and then everything's done. Then it's all done. And especially now the portal, you can do your quotes and everything. It is from going to meet the customer, the survey, sometimes to even winning the job. I I've probably personally put in 3-4 hours work because you guys are doing it. Even the CRM then does things. The customer's gone on the website, so everything's on the website, which you've done. Yeah, realistically, I'm probably spending, if you broke it down, 3 hours, 4 hours on a survey in total. But yeah,
So you've mentioned, um, obviously, you don't think it would be possible on your own because there's so many things that if you've never done this before, there's so many things you've got to get right, isn't there? There's so many things you've got to get right.
yeah. No, it's all in one place, isn't it? I know you pay. I think, well, you say it a lot, don't you? People fixate on cost over value. You know, I know you've got tiers now, but I know it might seem like a bigger monthly outgoing, which it is, and you can't do everything at once. I've picked and I've taken things away, and I've put bathrooms on, taken them off, and done different things because you can't until you start building a bit. It is difficult. I'm always scared of getting back to that position where I've made my outgoings grow hugely, and and then you can't. You're back to the monthly thing, but now I'm in such a comfortable position that I'm kind of just, I need some new brochures, need this, need that. But again, it's you. I only have to go to one place for everything. If there's something wrong with the website, if there's something wrong with the CRM, if I need information on anything, appliances, worktops, products, we need more brochures. It's a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, so a lot less hassle than chasing all these separate people yourself, isn't it?
I can do it in work. I can do it in the van. If I'm like, there's a WhatsApp group. So I just WhatsApp. I'm in all fairness, you only took a couple of hours, and somebody's got back to me, and it's sorted.
So convenience is obviously there for that, and that's what that is what it's designed to do. On your own stuff, then, so you've already mentioned like more money is happening. So in terms of income, see that as income and opportunities. Where would you say you're at now compared to where you were income wise? And then is this visibility bringing more opportunities to you as well, do you think?
Yeah, income wise, as I said, you're chasing the end of the month. Previously, using VAT money, using tax money, using just then robbing Peter to pay Paul. I'm taking deposits to finish a job. I'm taking Miss Jones's deposit, and then using that to finish Miss Williams's kitchen, and then I start in Miss Jones's kitchen with, I'm already $3,000 down because I've used it. So then it's a constant loop of just stress.
Do you think that just on that cash flow for a moment, do you think that trade accounts are a bit of a scam?
I don't have any anymore. I got into a mess years ago, and I don't mind people knowing things like this. I'm sure most people are in a position. And me and my partner, again, from using the VAT money and using tax money and using this, and then you've got Trade UK and you've got Howdens and you've got Trade Point or whatever. All these 60-day trade accounts. Yeah, I could never keep track of my cash flow, and we got in such a mess in the end, and we had to with the mortgage went up, like I said, childcare, there's everything. I think £1,300 a month for the mortgage went up to, you could £600-700 childcare, other fees, and we had to go into an IVA. This was before I knew about the academy, which is kicking myself a bit because it was only a year and a half before, and just to consolidate everything into one payment and get us on an even keel. But now, in hindsight, if I'd known how things were going to go, I wouldn't have had to do that because of the position I'm in now. But then looking back, it's the path. I probably wouldn't. May not never have looked at you guys if I wasn't in that position. But it does mean I can't do I think I spoke to you before. They won't let me into Which because
I was about to say every silver lining has a dark cloud.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
You can't have a director with any sort of
Yeah, I see
plan.
But just on how you got into that mess then, because I have a strong feeling against trade accounts because I don't believe that a tradesperson, no disrespect, because I was there myself, for a bigger business, trade credit, you need it because you've otherwise the accounting becomes too complex. Do you get what I'm saying? So for us, for instance, we run trade accounts, but we only run them a week at a time. We don't do it like monthly. We do not let any supplier accounts ever build up because and we're a bigger business, but when you've got individuals who aren't proper, businesses, they're sole traders, and they are taking on trade account debt. What I don't understand is you've had the money off the customer, or someone's had the money off the customer. Why does that debt need to sit with the sole trader? It never made sense to start with, but people see it as a way to get going and they go, oh, well, I could take the money off the customer. But this level of cash flow management is stressful and you need to be very good at doing it to make it work. And I think this is where most tradespeople find themselves, is they commit to one or two trade accounts, and then literally after that moment, they're just peddling. They're just peddling to keep those trade accounts above water. And I just don't understand why they put themselves in that situation when, if they go to Mrs. Jones and say, we're going to do your job, give me a deposit, pay for all the gear, it keeps them clean.
Yeah.
And there's literally no need ever to use these trade accounts. And I believe they're put there by these companies to trap people with them and then keep them suppressed, because that's all it does. And you think about the academy, like KBB Supply Services does not offer trade account debts, doesn't offer trade credit. We just don't do it because I know it's against our morals. I know that these trade accounts don't actually benefit people. They're actually a very bad thing that shouldn't be happening. Customers are willing to pay for stuff up front. So why do you need to put it on a credit card effectively?
We're not we're not business people in the trade initially. Obviously, we're learning now. This is where we becoming business people, but we're not business people. So, I mean, I'm sure most would agree with me that keeping on track of your cash flow is not a priority, is not a thing. And these trade accounts, majority of them are like 60 days. That's a long time. If you're not keeping track of your cash flow, that's a long time to know where you are. You know, you may think you're fine right now, and then in 60 days, you've got, you know, a trade UK bill coming in for like 5 grand, and then you've already started using the next month. And as you say, it's a vicious circle. Whereas now, products are paid for anyway up front, and then it's 30% deposit, which I don't have up front at the same time. Because sometimes I'm booked up a few months, but I'll have that the week before I start the job, and then either the rest at the end, or if the job is more than 3 weeks for me, it's then fortnightly or weekly installments with 10% left at the end. Because I don't want to be in a position where that customer's had their job done and they owe me an absolute fortune. But all materials are paid for up front with the deposit.
I think that the reason why people end up stuck in these trade account debts as well is because of the point we raised earlier, is that people don't factor profit into the job. So therefore, they need to use the cash flow that they've got to pay for the next job.
Yeah.
That is why you need to use the cash you've got in the bank for the next job, because there was no profit on the last job. And that's why these trade account debts just never go away.
Never.
Because if you have the profit on the jobs and you've got the money sat in the bank from the last job, which you should have only to pay your overheads, that's what that money's for. It's not there to fund the next job. The profit is to fund your overheads. It's not there to fund the next job. Now, in the absence of profit, where you're just not pricing properly, you use the trade account to go, oh, well, I need to use the trade account because I haven't got profit to fund the next job. So what I do is I put that on tick, and then I use that money to pay for that job. And then by the time that next job comes around, it's just like this cycle of cash.
Right.
And this debt that you're building up is effectively a loan that's funding your dysfunctional business.
Yeah.
And then the second that your dysfunctional business becomes even more dysfunctional, for whatever reason, maybe a personal injury, or you have a holiday, or you have a life crisis or something like that, where you have to take your eye off the ball for a little bit, bang, do you know what I mean? It just hits you because you haven't got anything. You've got no capital to clear that debt. You've got nothing. You are stuck in the rat race. You're in the hamster wheel and you can't get out. And it's just a shame. It really is a shame.
Been there.
Would you agree with that?
I've been there. Yeah, well, I was there for years. I've been there. I stayed there for a bit.
But do you not think this is where most people are? Do you not think this is where most people that are saying? Because something that we've mentioned a few times now, where people say, "Oh, I use Howdens." No, Howdens use you. If the supplier makes more money on the kitchen than you, you're not using them; they're using you. So, for instance, if you sell a job, you're making way more money on that job than KBB Supply Services. Do you get what I mean? You're making thousands, we're not. You know, whereas when you're using a trade account and you're not pricing properly, they're making thousands and you're not. So who's using who? Do you get what I'm saying? If you actually think about it, you're the one being used. You're not using their trade account. Their trade account's using you.
No, I guarantee. I agree. Every trade is in that position. All the ones, all the ones I know, all the ones I talk about, they're still using. They're stuck in the trade account. wheel, you know. So I know builders who won't be using Selco for a while. They're using, because they owe Selco, so they're using somewhat. You know, they constantly just kind of changing who they use.
It's sad, isn't it, really?
It's quite sad, yeah.
And the thing is, that I think the problem is with this, it's been so normalised that, you know, tradespeople are skint, running around like idiots, doing 7 days a week, you know, just to basically keep their head above water. And it all comes down to two very basic points. One, they don't have the assets to build trust, and they don't price properly. If they did those two things, they'd have a different life completely, wouldn't they? You know, like yourself. Sometimes they end up in a bit of a mess, but you know, it's just chaotic. It really annoys me, stuff like this. It really does, because I feel like it's just not necessary. You know, and I personally feel like these trade accounts just should be illegal. I think that unless you are demonstrating that you are a proper business, not just a tradesperson, unless you can demonstrate you're a proper business, it's like when you go to get a loan, you know, you have to be FCA approved and regulated. Do you get what I mean? You can't just, the bank just can't give a loan to anyone for any reason. So how can a trade account open up a credit line to someone as well, you know, without any checks, without any knowing if they're competent to manage cash flow or anything like that? You know, it's like you have an affordability calculator for a loan, but you should have a competence calculator for a trade account, because it's dangerous.
Yeah, no, so easy to just open a £5,000 credit account, Selco or Howdens, or well, more at Howdens. I think mine was like almost 20 grand or so at the
Yeah.
time.
I honestly believe it should be illegal. I don't believe anyone that's not been in business for more than 5 years and proven to be successful shouldn't be doing it. And I think everyone should be told to do what we're doing here: build trust, price properly, and you won't need trade. You won't need trade credit account. You just won't need it, because you'll be able to take deposits, pay for your stuff, crack on. You know, it's ridiculous. But anyway, we digress onto a side point there. It just, yeah, it just pisses me off, all that stuff. It really does, because you see people struggling so much, and it's always down to these things. So, since you've joined them, what's the biggest mindset shift? Because obviously we've spoke about quite a lot of stuff here, and life is a lot different now than what it was. So, what's the biggest mindset shift that's got you there?
Again, well, money and health, really. Money is a massive thing. I think I'm about 5 months. I've got about 5 months ahead of myself, money wise. You know, if we wanted to be really tight, just bills, just we could, you know, we'd be okay for a good 5 months, maybe 6 even. You know, that's a massive change to what it was a year ago. But then health as well. You know, I really enjoyed Snowdon, but I don't even know if a year ago I manage it up there all the way up. To be
Yeah.
fair, but no, I think it's
But
because I'm less stressed. My mind's like I've just lightened the load a bit because of money, which is primarily because of KBB. It's just a knock-on effect. I've had more time for myself, more time for my family. We go away and
But what was the shift in your mind that made you click into what made you engage with it? Because I remember, like you said before, so for instance, you said that you just went into it and you did everything. You spent hours and hours and hours on your laptop. So you just dove into it, didn't you? It was just like, right, bang. So I'm assuming that wasn't something that you were doing before. So that must have been the mindset shift where you're gone, actually, if I want to make a change here, something must have clicked where the mind went, we need to start doing this. Do you know what I mean? What was that shift in you, do you think?
I think it was just that job I mentioned that I didn't earn any money. And I was, again, another month where we were just stressed. It all comes down to stress. It was just another month of the mundane, normal. Every month's the same. There's no money. There's stress. There's a bit of anxiety, and something had to change. And looking at when I looked into you guys and done a few test orders and things, and then sold that first kitchen to an existing customer. I mean, you get a bit of a buzz, and you can see, you know, actually this could work. I got talking to a local stone company, a few local companies, appliance company, and yeah, everything just kind of seemed to click into place. Everything seemed to just actually this could actually work. You
Yeah.
know,
So that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And then that's when all these other things where the stars started to align. So it's almost like it was waiting for that moment of like the last straw to go.
do it, yeah,
And then you just jumped in.
yeah. I mean, I've stolen quite a few jobs off. You do get, I'm not sure, because I changed my company name. Do Magnet still? I had a few companies like Sigma 3 and a few companies get in touch with me and say, "Oh, I can see you're doing your own thing now. All the best. Well, we'll take you off our list," and things like that.
So what? Since you've been a member, then, so how long have you been in now? Then,
I think it's about 18 months. Persona Kitchens was a year old this month, just gone.
right? Okay. So what's the biggest impact on you as a person? You've just mentioned health. Has this had any impact on that? Do you think?
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Just I I do more with my boy. I've lost quite a bit of weight, not through stress, through actually you know, the gym, healthy eating, exercise. Yeah, it's just changed me completely
So
because
talk me through the change then. What was it like before? Where did the change happen? Why was it because of the academy, and what's happened since? So just talk us through that.
I think joining the academy gave me kind of a goal, gave me something to focus on, something exciting. I think you can get also. I think when you're fitting other people's kitchens, you can just get a bit. You lose the love for it. Really, you don't want. You're going in. You don't really want to speak to the customers. Just you just kind of you fall out of love with the job that you enjoy. I love being a kitchen fitter. I love being a joiner. You fall out of love with it. So joining the academy, selling my own product and trying to sell it, and the excitement of getting a review, and just anything like that. Really, just getting one over the line. It's a bit of a buzz, but it's a bit of a drug. Really, you really enjoy doing it, and you want to. So then it makes you want to put more and more into it. You want the brochures, and you want get the van sign written t-shirts, and then the more you get into it, the less stress, the more money you make, the less stressed you are, the more time you feel like you've got for yourself. I mean, things like the gym, things like health, it's all to do with the mind, really. So you can't be asked going to the gym. You can't be bothered, eating healthy. So it's everything. It's a knock-on effect, and it all shifts.
Have you used the standards workbook from the academy?
The one we had from, yeah,
Have you
well, that,
used that
yeah, we were giving that out at one of the and I
at
said
the
at the
event?
time, the dean who was there, I said, I mean, it wasn't too bad anyway, because I sleep like a baby. Even when I'm stressed, I have about 8 to 9 hours a night. I don't drink. I'll have a few pints now and again. I'm not
Yeah,
really a drinker. So then, yeah, coming off that, then my mindset changed. I looked after my health. I train like 4 days a week now. I joined a run club. So I spend with the 90 minutes. I probably do 90 minutes every night, to be fair, because I'm up till midnight just on the laptop doing something. And then I have Friday, which is all day pretty much
yeah,
on the quotes and that. So then I also have an hour nearly every day, which is run club,
yeah,
gym, Thai rocks training. So it's balanced my life a lot.
yeah. So it sounds like you were sort of on the road anyway to being healthy and being on it, but you just were being drowned in not being able to get at it properly because of fucking stress and being overworked.
Just working 7 days a week just to make bills, really.
Yeah. So what has this impact had then? All this extra time, money, how's it affected family life? Has it made it better at home?
Loads better. I got more time. I used to be a bit snappier with my boy. Not in a, just I didn't really have time. I was busy.
Yeah.
I've got
It's
more
horrible that, isn't it?
my boy. If he asks me something, I can move the laptop to one side and I time for him. I take him to his swimming lessons. I dropped him to school this morning. It's just little things like that.
Yeah. Well, they are big things, and a lot of tradespeople, including myself, I missed out on my first two kids a lot. I look back on that and think, fucking hell, because I wasn't doing then what I wasn't following the process that we all know now. Do you know what I mean? I was still building it at the time, so it was really tough. And I remember, how hard that is. So they're not small things, taking the kids to school and having a bit of time for the family. They're just not, because you look back and you'll be like, fucking hell. I think this is where people get in life. Personally, I see it a lot where people get to, like, the kids have grown up a little bit now. They're in the late 40s, maybe 50s, sometimes younger, and they're sort of feeling like life's already slipped by. They're feeling like it's already gone, sort of thing. But it's never too late to start, though, is it, really?
Well, I'll be 40 in May. It's only been 18 months. I'm not. I still take on labour only work if there's a gap in the diary. I'm not vain enough to think I'm the next Ren. I'm this big kitchen fitting company that oh no, I'm only going to fit my own kitchens. If I need to pay the bill, if there was no money, I needed to to fill a gap, I would still, at the minute, take on, try to flip them, obviously. But if I couldn't, I would still take on labour only. But the way it's going, well, I haven't for a long time, to be fair.
Yeah, and just having that ability, like you say, to be able to flip a customer. When you haven't got something like this, you can't flip them into anything, can you? You're just stuck doing what you're told to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what do you think then? What have you achieved now that you just that you're the most surprised at, and you didn't think you would ever achieve before?
The buffer in the bank, to be fair, the profit, um, a family holiday. Before we bought the house and I had my boy, I was on. That's all work would pay for. Really, would be holidays and things like that when I was younger. But yeah, since all these, you have to mature and have all these big outgoings. Yeah, you just don't think you're going to get. There's no way of getting a buffer, a profit really in the bank. That contingency, that safety net. That seemed impossible to get that and just have that peace of mind. That your partner's asking you, "Are we okay this month? Are we okay?" That question doesn't. Well, she doesn't ask it now.
I bet that's a nice
I
feeling,
don't
though.
ever. She doesn't have access to the money though.
That's the main thing. Well, I bet it's a nice feeling to know that, if the question does come, it's not an awkward conversation, and you have got confidence that you can provide.
Yeah,
So that's a big change then, isn't it, really? But when you look at your mindset, knowing that those conversations aren't just, well, they're not fair, are they? Because we live in fear a lot, don't we? We live in fear of conversations. We live in fear of things. Yeah, if you know that that conversation doesn't even need to happen. So did that conversation happen before? I'm assuming that would
every
be a
month.
regular.
Every month, yeah.
Really?
Would we months, as I said, if I'm not going to get paid off this job for a fortnight, would your parents lend us some money and we'll give it back to them when so and so pays up? Yeah, okay. So every month you'd be like, "Oh, we all right this month, or do we need to?" It's just some people don't have that. They don't have family members. They can just borrow off for a week. I don't understand, how lucky you can be anyway. Even when you feel like you're not, things are shit. You still be quite lucky. But yeah, it's just nice not to have to ask people for money as well. That's not a nice feeling. Saying, "Oh, have you got? Would it be possible to lend some money off you for bills this month, and till so and so pays?" Or, "Oh, I didn't realize I had this Howden's bill. Yeah, do you mind doing that? But when so and so pays, I'll give it back to you." It's just horrible conversations to have, really.
And it's back to what we said before, and these things, we bury our head in the sand with them, don't we? We sort of pretend it's not happening and think these debts aren't there, and then when they keep hitting us, it just.
I'd have Trade UK letters unopened because I knew what they were. It was pointless opening them. To be fair, it was crazy. No, I don't fear the postman anymore.
It's crazy to say it in it, and honestly, I feel like, just brings me back to that point where it pisses me off that you think we must take responsibility for things ourselves. And I'm not saying that these big companies are to blame for everything. We're adults at the end of the day, but they know what they're doing. That's the other thing. They know there's people who understand numbers at the top of them businesses that know once they commit to that trade account debt, they ain't getting out of it. Do you know what I mean? They're not. Even if they pay it off every month, you've still got to pay it off every month. Do you know,
Yeah.
just because you're clearing it down doesn't mean that it's working for you. You know what I mean? It's a fucking nightmare. Right, so you've had a really good 18 months since you joined. Really, really good. Like amazing story, like fantastic. Everything's on the up, really is inspirational. What's the plan for the next 18 months?
I'm booked up at the minute until March. I've got a few designs out there, but I'm looking to really. I'm looking to. I think I'm going to implement finance. That's another thing. Now you get a bit of profit in the bank and there's work booked in. You relax and you can just kind of look at these things. I've just bought the flags, the signs, replenished the brochures, some sample doors all last week. And I think next, I think I can just now I know I can afford it. The cash flow sheet says it won't make a difference to anything. I think next would be ideal for finance. I think the only thing I was missing then would be which, to be fair, from the whole kind of basket of things. But obviously I got through to the last thing on that, and that's a no. Um, Recruitment is my next thing. I think next year. I spoke to you about the small space I can use for design surveys in my stone company,
Yeah.
which is there if needed. So I'm not in a rush for a space this year. I don't think. I think this year it's recruitment, so I can come off the tools a bit
Yeah. I
completely.
think when you get to this point, I always say to people, don't try to rush ahead, right? Just this is the moment where you need to sort of look inward, look in the business, look at your processes, look at how you're doing things, look at how you can improve everything, how you can make it more efficient, and then recruit people and do the efficiency bit first, make sure that you've got your internal sort of processes ironed out and you're using the Academy Plus features as well that you've got, like the project management, all that, tools that you may not have got familiar with yet. And then look at recruitment. And then next year, I think you could look at, increasing your capacity a little bit and having a better year again, 100%. I think that's really good. So what would you say then to, if someone's watching this and they've sat through this interview and they're thinking about joining the Academy, what would you say to them?
I'd say give it a go. I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You're not going to lose out as such. I'm not saying, I'm not saying you're gonna. It's not gonna work because I can't see why it wouldn't work if you were, if you put in what you want out. I think there's no reason it can't work. But you've got no reason not to give it a go. If for some reason it doesn't work, it's probably because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But you just go back to what you were doing anyway. So there's no reason not to take a chance and just see how it goes. I mean, it's worked for me. It's worked. I'm on the snow talking to so many people. It's worked, as you say, worked for so many people at the Snowdon walk.
Yeah, and there's loads of people. I mean, they're just the people that were fit enough to do that. There's loads of people that it's working for, loads and loads. It's beyond doubt now.
Yeah.
It's the people as well. I do feel for the people that come in and sometimes can't make it work. Usually because, like what you said, they don't do what they should be doing, or they won't do what they should be doing because they can't get out of their own head, or they won't listen, or they won't follow the process, and they think they know better. What would you say to those people? Because they're a different crowd, them. And I'm not trying to, believe me, I'm not trying to turn losers into winners here, but there are just people that just need that extra message where they're being too ego driven and not willing to unlearn. So what would you say to them?
No, I understand that as well a little bit. I said earlier, if you've been doing it, there's probably people doing it longer than me, longer than 20 years. It's hard to do. It's easy to implement the things which are new. The other, the other stuff that you've been doing for years is so easy to just pass up, not listen to the advice, think you know better. I've been doing this for 15 years. I price this way. I win most of my jobs. But if you're going to do it, just do it properly. I know it's easy enough for me to say that because I was a nightmare. I've only just started doing looms, but I can see the benefit of them though. I've had other people send me looms from other companies and from yourselves with the designs and the way I take in the information. They are so beneficial. So it's just getting over yourself, I think, and just needing to relearn, needing to reset and think, right, well, you wouldn't go to learn Spanish and think, well, no, I know Spanish. That's not Spanish. You'd listen to the Spanish teacher, wouldn't you? Because otherwise you never learn fucking Spanish. So
Yeah, it's
just
true.
if they've never done all this before, you guys have. Us lot are doing it right now. I think just get over yourself and just.
Yeah. If so, say for instance, Luer, you realised for yourself that you were going to jump in. So if we'd have had this conversation with you while you were still in the world you were in before, do you feel like you would have got it then, or do you feel like you just had to go through what you had to go through to get to a point where you were ready to do it?
In what way do you think? What way do you mean? Do you mean
Well,
shit?
like,
Or,
yeah, because sometimes it's like we speak to people. So, for instance, I'm looking at the Luke in front of me now and going, right, you get it. Yeah. But there are people that are the old Luke that are still turning up to surveys covered in shit and not pricing properly. And then you're trying to have a conversation with those people who sort of see what they're doing wrong, but won't admit it. Do you get what I mean? So it's like, do you feel like people can't be told when they're in that world? And they just need to sort of discover for themselves that at a point, like you say, the straw that broke the camel's back for you is when that job went west. And you're like, fucking hell, I can't do this anymore. Do you know what I mean? How do you feel like people need to be treated in that
it is.
period? And
I think people need to have that. Sometimes you do need that breaking point where you think you tell yourself, no, something needs to change. I think if you're just in the wheel, as you say, and you think you're doing well, you're not doing well. I think people need to you need to look at the numbers and look at your life a little bit and think, well, actually, am I doing well, or do I want more? Because otherwise, you will be literally be doing this until I don't have a pension. I have now. I've literally only just set up a pension. Didn't have any savings, but now I've got a stocks and shares ISA. I've done everything.
Yeah, you follow it all.
It's just I didn't. I'm trying to tell my apprentice now to do the ISA, do something with all this money I'm giving you. To people, I think you need to. You'll be doing it for the next 40 years. Otherwise, is that what you want to do? That's what people need to stop and.
But some people can't be told though, can they? That's the thing.
No, I don't think. I'm not sure I would have been told. 10 years ago then, when I was, things I was busy and I was earning okay money. I don't think I could have been told, "Oh, try this." But I think you need to go through something or want it as well, and you need to have the family behind you because, like, my miss is good as gold, but I'm on the laptop a lot. I'm doing a lot. She does everything with the boy, so I think you need.
You need.
People might want it, but then if the people in the house don't want, are not helping, I think that could literally be a bit of a hurdle as well.
Well, it's not a bit of a hurdle. It's massive.
Yeah.
If you're not getting support where you need it, it's all right us giving people support, but if the partner isn't on board, then it is a huge issue. It's a huge issue.
Even my little one knows if I'm sat at the table and I'm doing because the loom room isn't finished yet. It's he'll say, you doing designs, Daddy?" And I'll be, "Yeah, doing designs a minute. Can you play after designs?" I'm like, "Yeah." People need to decide if they want something more. They need to make the choice that they're gonna set the time aside. You know, I know some people want to go out, they want to play golf, they want to think, but it needs to you need to be able to prioritize it, and you need to look at your surroundings, your family life, and think, have a chat with them. I think, and just say, because I did speak to Natasha beforehand and say, "Oh, I'm gonna give this a go," and everybody around you is quite skeptical, but she wasn't too bad. She's like, "Oh,
What if
just
she was skeptical?
I only cared really, to be fair.